the earth, uncertainty has stepped in. Oh my man, 'cause I see my people suffering from plagues and pestilence, and I see my people dying 'cause they have no self-defense. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, on behalf of the people, we bless your name. As we confess our evil, we bless your name. On behalf of the children, we bless your name. As to teach them, we bless your name. Father, we call you. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. Oh, yeah. Father, we call you. Father, we know there's no one in this world that we can turn to. No, no, no. And Father, we know there's nothing in this world that you can't do. No, no, no. Everywhere my people suffering and they don't have no hope. And it seems like they are drowning because they cannot cope. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Caribbean to Congo, we bless your name. New York City to Cairo, we bless your name. Australia, Toronto, we bless your name. Argentina to India, yeah. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Brazil to Jamaica, we bless your name. Every crevice and acre, we bless your name. Politicians and gangsters, we bless your name. Come, let's kneel down to the Father. Father, we call you. Heal your people, Lord. Father, we call you. Touch your people, Lord. Father, we call you. We need you, Lord God. Father, we call you. All of our sins are before you. Father, we call you. Touch your people, Lord. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. And we are from our people. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. Heal our land, Lord. Father, we call you. Oh, Father, we call you. Yeah. Waking up this morning, seeing the news again, and nothing has changed. No, 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 no. From the ends of the earth, uncertainty has stepped in. Oh my man, 'cause I see my people suffering from plagues and pestilence, and I see my people dying 'cause they have no self-defense. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, on behalf of the people, we bless your name. As we confess our evil, we bless your name. On behalf of the children, we bless your name. Father, help us to teach them, we bless your name. Father, we call you. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. Oh, yeah. Father, we call you. Father, we know there's no one in this world that we can turn to. No, no, no. And Father, we know there's nothing in this world that you can't do. No, no, no. Everywhere my people suffering and they don't have no hope. And it seems cannot cope. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Caribbean to Congo, we bless your name. New York City to Cairo, we bless your name. Australia, Toronto, we bless your name. Argentina to India, yeah. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Brazil to Jamaica, we bless your name. Every crevice and acre, we bless your name.
As we prepare, we're just taking in some music from Minister Stricker. Bless your name, you know. Good music, message for this time.
Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. Heal our land, Lord. Father, we call you. Oh, Father, we call you. Yeah. Waking up this morning, seeing the news again, and nothing has changed. No, 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 no. From the ends of the earth, uncertainty has stepped in. Oh, man. Cause I see my people suffering from plagues and pestilence, and I see my people dying cause they have no self-defense. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, on behalf of the people, we bless your name. As we confess our evil, we bless your name. On behalf of the children, we bless your name. Father, help us to teach them, we bless your name. Father, we call you. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. Oh, yeah. Father, we call you. Father, we know there's no one in this world that we can turn to. No, no, no. And Father, we know there's nothing in this world that you can't do. No, no, no. Everywhere my people suffering and they don't have no hope, and it seems like they are drowning because they cannot cope. But you said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Caribbean to Congo, we bless your name. New York City to Cairo, we bless your name. Australia, Toronto, we bless your name. Argentina to India, yeah. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, I'll heal their land, heal their land. Oh, from Brazil to Jamaica, we bless your name. Every crevice and acre, we bless your name. Politicians and gangsters, we bless your name. Come, let's kneel down to the Father. Yeah. Father, we call you. Heal your people, Lord. Father, we call you. Touch your people, Lord. Father, we call you. We need you, Lord God. Father, we call you. All our sins are before you. Father, we call you. Touch your people, Lord. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you. On behalf of our people, Father, we call you. Yeah. Send down your mercy, Lord. Father, we call you. Oh, yeah. Touch your people, Lord. Father, we call you. Yeah. Father, we call you.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, coming here from St. Lucia on this wonderful Sunday afternoon here for another episode of Music Mind. My name is Shem Meluce, and alongside me is...
I am Shakina Meluce, and welcome again to an episode of Music Mind. Today, we are discussing leadership. Again, we know, by now you already know that we're discussing social issues and emerging it somehow with spiritual life and anything spiritual. So feel free to join in the discussion in the chat room. We welcome all comments, whether it is in opposition to what we are saying or in proposition to what we are saying. We welcome all of that. We are saying that we do not propose to know it all, but we are setting a platform just to engage discussion on specific issues, social issues, and topics that are not always readily available for discussion. So yes, we are here and we want to welcome you. I have welcomed a few persons in the chat. I see here there are a few persons who are watching, but persons who have greeted us in the chat. I just want to say welcome. Livingstone Evangelistic Ministry. Welcome, such a pleasure to have you. Soraya Polius. Welcome, such a pleasure to have you. Soraya is Sister Ingrid's sister in the US. That's what she says.
Yes. Oh yes, I know her personally. Wonderful. Yes, Uzelta has just logged in, so we are happy to have Uzelta logging in at the moment. So again today,
Uzelta is saying Emily is there.
Oh,
Uzel and Uzelta.
Wow, so
Hi.
we have a lot of ease in the building. Greetings to all of you all. And again, today we are speaking about leadership. Leadership from various facets. The truth about it, we won't go too deep into that. We would need like a few months to go into the breakdowns and all the nitty-gritties of leadership styles, the
leadership
theories and
all of this.
So we are not going to be doing that today, but we will engage things that are prevalent, things that we know about. And greetings, I'm happy to see Anson, and I'm Tabby, happy to see you, and I want to say big greetings to Natty Conqueror visiting us today. Natty Conqueror, let me speak a little bit about him. He's a reggae artist from St. Lucia.
Yes.
Lives in the hills. An interesting story. Look him up and see what is going on with him. So we're really happy to have him drop by, even though it's for a short or long time. So we give thanks for that. So today we will be talking about leadership. So as always, I like to ask the questions because my wife likes to answer questions. She also likes to ask questions as well. But we both will be answering and doing various things. So the first thing I want to bring forward, because if we are talking about leadership, we really need to know what is leadership. Now feel free to answer in the chat. You could do that. We don't propose to know everything. We may be wrong. We may be correct. You may be even more correct. So, what is leadership?
Okay, so welcome again to you guys. Leadership for me entails a whole lot of things, but to sum it up, it basically has to do with providing guidance, inspiration, providing direction to a group of people for a common goal. And that is leadership. And for me, leadership can be both good leadership and bad leadership in terms of the end that the leader wants to get to. So you could lead to a good end and you could lead to a bad end. So the manner in which you go, you get to that end will determine how effective you are as a leader. So that is what I believe leadership is. Leadership is neutral. It is not it is not something that is generally seen as a good thing or generally seen as a bad thing. But what is good and what is bad about it is the end that the leader wants to get, the leader or the group wants to get at.
So basically, you are saying that um, leadership basically is the fulfillment of getting one to an end.
Well,
It doesn't
yes, it is just getting
The
a group
process.
of persons, the process of getting
Yeah.
a group of persons to an end, whatever that end is, whether it is a good end or a bad end.
Now, very interesting, because I'm now thinking, who is a leader? You know, because everyone could be listening to that and be like, wow, whether the end is good, whether the end is bad, you are a leader. I already know certain persons that will no, that's not leadership. That could never be leadership. Leadership is someone that is an individual that brings you to a place of good morality. The decision must be sound. It must not end in mass murder. It must not end in that. That is leadership. And you are saying this is a neutral thing, right?
Yes, it does not matter whether you think that it should be good, the end should be good, or the end should be bad. Generally, we think that the end should be good, but we have excellent leaders who have led groups to a bad end. We have excellent leaders who have led people to end their lives. We have cult leaders are very, very good leaders. Some of them have excellent leadership traits, but they end up using it to the wrong end, from a moral standpoint, to the wrong end.
All right, so I sort of agree with this. Well, I actually agree with this because I believe that leadership is basically neutral. And I'm looking in the chat there, and Tabi says, love what she said. Can be good or bad. Most people view leadership as positive all the time. And she went on to say, you can be a good leader at allowing others to be bad.
I like that.
Oh Lord, some are good at that. Powerful, it sounds funny, but it's really true. And I always have something that I see when it comes to, well, because I'm a musician, it's one of the things that I see. You listen to some people maybe sing or play an instrument, and they play the wrong thing properly. So I say they play it, they have been practicing the wrong thing, and they are very good at doing the wrong thing correctly or effectively. So yes, very good point, and I love that. So as we continue on leadership, we recognize that it is not just, we just mentioned the term leadership and talk about an outcome. But we want to know about, we want to talk about various styles of leadership, because we recognize that if we start speaking about it could end positively, and that is relative, it could end negatively, and that is also relative, we have to also understand that there may be various styles implemented. And where does that come about? What are the styles? And let us speak to it, and let us see if we could enlighten anyone or be enlightened from the chat as to what are leadership styles and what have we seen in our world today.
All right, so of course, I always like to go into the more academic side of things before we delve into the spiritual side of things. And from my research and from my studies, I have come to understand that leadership theories on leadership, there are also varying leadership styles that persons have proposed. But for today's session, like we said earlier, we cannot delve into all of that. That's just going to take forever for us to go into all of it. But today we're going to focus on at least three. I think for the most, three of them. And those are leadership styles that are most commonly known. So the first one I want to mention is the authoritarian leadership style. And the authoritarian leadership style, basically the leader is takes all the decisions. The leader, there's no room for flexibility. The leader is in charge. What I say goes. And we have that a lot in several spheres of life, in politics, in various institutions, organizations, even in families. We have those types of leadership styles being employed. We also have the participative leadership style, and that one is sort of rooted in democratic theory, where everybody has a say. And while the leader has the final say, so the leader will say, okay, based on all the viewpoints that everybody has presented, this is what we're going to go with. The leader makes the final decision. However, the leader leaves room for discussion on the matter, for collaboration, and for various points to be brought forward. There is the third one that is quite interesting, it always intrigues me. I would not call it a leadership style, but it is sort of a leadership style because we do have persons in leadership positions who employ that kind of style as well, and it's called the delegative leadership style or the laissez-faire leadership style. So that means that the leader assumes the role. So I am in the leadership position, but I don't really do anything. What I do is I delegate roles and tasks to individuals. So if we have to build a house, I say, okay, A, you do this, you do the foundation. B, you put up the blocks. C, you plaster the house. D, you put on the roof. And when everything comes together, I take the praise for it. So I take the credit for it because, of course, I'm in charge of the project. So I am the leader there. I made sure that those persons did what they had to do. But it just means that I have delegated. It doesn't mean that I have done anything to ensure that whatever it is that we wanted the outcome to be actually was done. So these are the three main ones, and let me just say before you delve in here that with each one there are pros and cons. I don't know if we should go into all of that, but there are pros and cons, meaning that there are good things about each style and there are bad things about each style, and all of them can be used in the right circumstance at the right time for the right purpose. So that, however, generally when we speak about leadership, we want to speak about, we want to talk about the one that emphasizes more democracy, where everybody has a part to play in it. So this is where I leave that for now.
Okay, so we got we started delving into the various types of leaders, and again, if you're just coming in, our topic today on Muziq Mind is leadership. What is a leader? Who is a leader? Maybe I could add who can be a leader. And so right now we have actually stated that a leader is one who will take you from where you are to an expected end. It could be good, it could be bad, and that is a relative factor. It all depends on how you view it. So we went into describing three of them. The first one being authoritarian, where this individual rules with an iron fist, sort of as to dictate. Maybe that's a harsh word, but really I control things and I direct it as I intend, and that is what the authoritarian is. However, with the second one, this one allows room for the involvement of others, which is participative, right? Right. So this one allows room for the people, I don't want to say subordinates, but just for lack of a word, the persons that they are leading to be a part of it. And then we have one, if I want to use a term, maybe a slacker, who cools out and just say, you know, listen, you do this, you do that, you do this at the moment, I want you to do this. And these are typically the kind of people that sit back and they seem to have competent persons that are able to do everything that they want done, and then the outcome is good, whether good or bad, and they get the praise as a great leader. So here we have it. So I was just summarizing in different words what was said, but I also want to look into the chat, and the chat said, welcome SF Rose, I'm happy that you are here. Livingstone Evangelistic Ministry said, what are the traits? Oh yeah, that we might go into that. We are already going into that, and I see Livingstone sent me some authoritarian statement there. I need my song, Father God, I need a blessing. But let me highlight a point that Nati Conqueror is saying there. He's saying, according to him, and I'm assuming this, His Imperial Majesty, our Heavenly Father, leaders are people who raise the standards by which they judge themselves and by which they are willing to be judged. Aha. Leaders are people who raise the standards by which they are judged themselves and by which they are willing to be judged.
I think that is a very good definition, because we cannot, as a group, if we whether or not we have a leader in the group, I always see myself as equal to the leader, not in the sense as I want to take over the leadership role. That is not what I'm saying. But I like to see myself as equal to the leader, because I hold the leader to the exact standard that I hold myself to. And whenever I am in a group, I try as much as possible to put in my all. And when or if the leader does not have that exact standard as I do, it poses a problem. There will be some sort of friction. So that is important. As a leader, you cannot have an expectation of your subordinate or your group members to behave in a way that you do not, or have a standard that you do not uphold. So that is very profound, Nati Conqueror.
Great from Nati. And then I'm just thinking about the last one, who is basically a passive leader, who basically delegates and probably would not have showed any model or example that this is how it should be done. Mm-hmm. Someone who does not really teach anything. I may be wrong. Maybe at some point that person may adjust. However, based on the meaning and the explanation of that particular model, this person really is one who delegates. So yes, very good point, Nati. Now I want to bring in something as we speak about those three kinds of leadership styles. And I want to ask, and I want to throw that in, because as we speak about persons, one with an authoritarian perspective, one that allows others to co-lead, if I would say, and one that would dictate. Where do they get those styles from? Is it innate? Are you born with that kind of vibe that I am inborn, I am a leader by nature, while one can go to school and learn the various skills to become a leader? Now, I believe that they are both.
Well, in psychology there is this nature
versus nurture. Yes.
It's like a nature theory, or how you call it? I forget the word, but it basically suggests that some people they have natural traits, they have natural abilities. So those persons are born with those things. There is absolutely nothing that they necessarily need to do to attain certain capabilities. So for example, there are certain people who would be able to sing 2 years, they just come out and they're singing. Mm-hmm. And there are others who, they don't necessarily have that innate ability to sing, but it can be nurtured. It can be, you can learn how to do it, learn the various techniques. And you find sometimes even those who are born with it don't even know they can do it, but they don't even know that how they can do it, yeah, or explain what they can do. But the person who has learnt it can probably give you an explanation and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the technique that I am using. And that does not mean that either of them is more superior than the other. So both, I believe leaders can both be bred and leaders can be born as well.
Yes. Okay. So we are talking about leadership, and I see a question in the chat, and let's see if we could go into that, because I feel it's Anson asked something there, and he said, is that really delegating or subtle dictation, like dictatorship? The first one mentioned. Well, the first one mentioned is authoritarian. Basically, this person does everything. So I will give you an example. Let me see. A typical example would be, I am a chef, so I'm a chef. You are here to assist me to cook for 5 persons tonight. You said to me, I will be your assistant, whatever you want me to do. But I really don't allow you to do anything. By the time you check it, I have the water boiling, I'm chopping this, I'm doing this, it's already. By the time you try to, well, I probably would give you something to do, but you'd not really be involved. I would probably send you far away to go and get me something in the store. By the time you back, oh, the macaroni and cheese is done already.
But the other facade to that is even though the assistant is involved, the assistant doesn't have a say. So
Yeah.
so this chef has done things his way for a very long time. This is a young chef coming in, and maybe the standards have been raised or some changes has been made in the studies. They probably know a little bit more, and this somebody is making a suggestion, and that suggestion will totally be ignored because the authoritarian has already stated that this is how it should be done. So basically, with the authoritarian leadership style, the individual in the leadership position has the final say and has the say at all times. They do not allow for anybody's input. So they already know how they want their things to be done. All they want to do is to dictate and say, okay, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. I do not care if you have any other alternative method that might make it easier on all of us. You don't know what you're talking about. I know it, and we're going to go through with the way that I want it done. That is basically how the authoritarian operates. They do not allow for collaborative discourse on any issue.
So in essence, it also makes sense to say that this person is dictating.
Yes. So yes, that is what it is. The authoritarian. It is a dictative approach to leadership.
Anston said subtle. Maybe it's not that subtle.
I think it can be both.
It might be bold, but again, it's from a perspective of an individual. Say, for instance, well, I guess it's how the person on the end of the spectrum receives it. You have persons that could be like, this is how this individual is, I will work with that. And you have persons that will come out of that experience, broken, distress, and they will completely forget about cooking. So it might, the weight of whether it's subtle dictatorship versus big a magnified dictatorship would vary based on the person and how they receive it.
I think also, in addition to how the individual on the receiving end receives the dictation, aside from that, it also has to do with the personality of the individual actually doing the dictating. Because some people can be very good at telling you something very, very off in a very nice way. And it's that would come across very subtly. And sometimes you don't even recognize it. While another person do not have that ability, so they will come across as harsh as they present it. So they just present it as it is. And so it has to do with the ability of the person to mellow down whatever dictating that they do, for it not to seem like it is dictating, or for that person may not have that ability.
So again, we have something else coming in there. So we now brought in the aspect of one's personality. You have persons speaking to individuals anyhow, and then they would seal that by saying, this is how I am, this is who I am. And so one's personality makes the authoritarian method of leadership worse than it is, or maybe you could mellow it down to in a way that
it's more receptive.
Okay.
But that does not make it good.
Okay, so we dwell a little bit on authoritarian. So we have described that. We have also gone into the democratic, where persons are integrated into the decision making and also the execution of whatever it is, and also the one who delegates work and all of those things. I want to say welcome to Catherine, Melissa, yes, thanks for being there and giving an input. So now we're gonna go down a little bit because Yuzelta asked now, well said Shakina, you should expound on what makes a good leader. What is it makes one a good leader? We have proposed 3 styles of leadership. All seem to be strong in their own way. We have also stated, I have also brought that up and inquired, are we innately born with the qualities to be good leaders? Would that be the answer for you, Zelta? Or is there a school that you go to and anyone can become a leader through proper training, proper schooling, from proper mentorship? So let's go ahead and let's see what we will say to you, Zelta.
Okay, so I think with leadership, and I think somebody asked about that, leadership traits or leadership qualities. I think there are certain things that are really necessary for a good, effective leader. And first off, a leader needs to be a follower. In the sense that if you do not appreciate leadership, then you should not be in any position of leadership. So you cannot tell me that you want to be in leadership, you want to assume the role of leadership, but you do not have any good history with being a subordinate. It is totally wrong. It means that you cannot deal with people in a way that you would like people to deal with you, which will be a problem in itself. You need to be able to emulate what you want. And so if you as a leader cannot be respectful, cannot have honesty, cannot have integrity, do not have a level of confidence, do not have commitment, is a very poor communicator, do not have a passion, then you cannot expect for your group members, for your subordinates to have those traits. Now, I mean, that does not mean that these things don't exist. It does exist where we have leaders who are very poor communicators, who have very low confidence, who have no sense of drive, who do not inspire their followers, who are not very honest, have no sense of integrity or honesty. We have that. But what I'm saying is, for you to be a good leader, the same things that you desire from your subordinates, you need to be able to have those qualities for yourself as well. You need to also be able to empower your people. If you cannot empower your subordinates, how do you expect them to have that motivation, that drive and passion to get to the end that you as a group want to get to? It does not work like that. So I think there are a whole list of traits and qualities that a leader can have. But foremost, it is for you as a leader to be able to be the best of followers.
Okay, so to add to that, let me say to you, Zeltan, while everyone listening here, we have proposed basically 3 of them, 3 leadership styles that is that if you look around you will see existing. And I want to say that if you merge those 3 together, you may be able to find at least an ideal leadership style as you merge them together. For I believe an individual can exhibit, a leader should be able to balance them out and know when it is appropriate to use them. So, for example, you want to groom a child into a specific way. You cannot be passive at that point and say, or democratic and say, calm, what's your decision? No, there are some things that you must instill in them and guide them. Otherwise, some may be dead, some may not live to even try out again. So there are aspects, there are certain times in life where it has to be that way. There is also another time, because already you have already stated that you are to lead from a place of example, where you would have modeled something, and that child, that is your time now, where I could delegate and say, today you will be doing that. And I trust you because I have taught you. You have also seen me do it. So you know it can work. And so I am able to sit back and get praise. You know, you understand? Like, I can get the praise because I have taught it. It's not a case where I know you have the qualifications and I just have you doing my work and I'm getting paid the bulk of the money while you are doing my work. That is not the case. I have trained you, I have taught you well, and I know you are a good student. You are an example. You are a representation of me. And in the other instance, because I was the one who trained you, or I know of your capabilities and all of those things, definitely I could say something. You could say, no, I'm thinking this could work, and you could participate in that leadership style. So, in answering this question, basically we are saying in the three that we have already proposed, it is fair enough to say that you could merge them and use them appropriately for it to be effective. Effective as a leadership style and make you a good leader. Now we have some comments in the chat and we don't want to miss that. Livingstone said to me, I do not believe authoritarian leadership is true leadership, because true leaders create leaders from every group that they lead. Wonderful. Basically, we have said something to that effect, and I truly agree with that statement. Catherine Alexander said true leadership is measured by the level of influence. Nothing more, nothing less. I think she said something to add to that, Lord. He said, it's not the position that makes you a leader. It's the leader that makes the position.
That's a very interesting point, because in my thinking, some people, they really have nothing to do to become a leader. So there are persons, whatever it is that they do, someone will follow. So they don't have to be called a leader. They don't have to for example, bullies in school, for example. You have persons in school and they hold, they just start doing some things, and it doesn't have to be anything good, like I said. It could be the most negative of things. And you just find that other people would gravitate towards them. And that does not mean that they got that position of leadership through persons coming together and said, okay, we're going to have you as our leader. But they just follow this individual just because they have some sort of vibe that they're attracted to. So that is a very good point.
Yes, very true. Anson was saying, I think leadership may need the three styles, which is similarly to what I said. Yes, I'm welcome, Anita. It's nice having you. Hello to you. So, Emily said good is subjective, and that is very true.
That is true. That is true.
That is very true. Because we, if it wasn't so, we'd not be worried, because everyone has some good thing about them, and then you wonder what good they're talking about, and you seeing that is the worst decision or the worst thought, and that is very, very, very true.
Very true. Yes.
Now, this topic might get a little warm. It's already getting warm. You see, because as we speak about leadership, and if you're just coming in, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about leadership styles, and we mentioned out of the many, there are three that we highlighted: authoritarian, the democratic. Authoritarian, that is the one who leads really almost alone, dictates, yeah, basically dictates what is taking place. The democratic is the one that allows ideas from who they lead to give them some opinions and they could go forward together. While the passive, is one that sits and delegates and say, you do this part, you do that part, and ultimately at the end gets some high praises as a leader. So we've mentioned those things, and we have also brought about the point where we ask the question, are leaders born or are leaders created or bred? And I believe that both of them exist, and we went on a little further to answer the question as to what makes one or an example of a good leader, and then we said that an ideal merger of the two of the three at the appropriate time makes it ideal for leadership. So here you have it. We're talking about leadership today on Muziq Mind, and the question that I want to ask, and I don't want her to get too hot there. So before I do that, let me say good afternoon to Vivita. A pleasant good afternoon to you. And Kathleen said this is a very good book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. So people look it up and definitely do some reading on it. So let me go into the question that is a little passionate, and I want to ask, should women lead? We're living in a society that seems very male dominant. Well, it is evidential that it is a male dominant world. We are ahead. We control things, we control the order of things, and we make the orders. We make the most money whether women work in the same capacity as us. And we run the church. Very few women are functional in the church and those things. A few lead nations, very few, you could count them on your hand and things like that. So my question now is, should women lead? Now remember, we spoke about leadership. We are talking about leadership, and we're not going in to a big argument, but we're asking the question, should women lead? So let's get into this. Let's see the chat talk to us about this.
I think you highlighted something that is very important. Generally, in every single sphere of life, we have women who are quite capable, and I dare say even more capable than some men. And for some reason, there is a great level of marginalization when it comes to the possibility of women in leadership. For example, in the household, if we were to go to a Christian perspective, it is said that the man is the head of the house, and for that reason, it has been so bred in us that the man is and the man should be the head of the household. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree. It is so in us that even when a man does not exist within the household, you find women having to state that I am also the man in the household. So they're the man and the woman in the household, which is quite sad. It just means that making such a statement just means that you are acknowledging or you are suggesting that a man is superior to you in a sense. So in the household, from a Christian perspective, you generally find persons with the notion that women should be the one, men should be the ones leading. In the political spheres across the world, you find the smallest percentage of persons enacting legislation, persons in political leadership. arenas, women fall the smallest percentage of that. Even when we claim to live in a democracy, that women fall at the lowest percentages in representation within political spheres. Also, in churches, especially within the Caribbean and St. Lucia specifically, you seldom find a woman who is the head of a church. For example, you find a pastor who is a man, and you seldom find, if you know any, just let me know, but you do not find any woman in holding that title of pastor. So we have established that there is a pattern of marginalization when it comes to women and their abilities in positions of leadership. However, we said earlier that leaders can be born, which means that there are persons with the natural ability to lead. And leaders can also be bred, which means that they can learn. They can learn various things to do, various strategies to put them in that position of leadership. However, our society is not so readily available to embrace. We are so bent on a patriarchal society that we do not, whether or not the capability is there, you always find that there is some man above that woman, which is very sad. So yes, I believe women have great capabilities to lead, in some cases even greater and far beyond what a man can provide. But sadly, this is where we are at, and hopefully we will get to the position in society where a woman is not forbidden or marginalized simply because of her womanhood, and she would given an equal opportunity just as the man, because she is capable and not because she is woman.
Yeah, so we heard it from the female perspective. We heard words like marginalized, and we heard words like male versus male dominance and things like that. And let's read. Let me just read something in the chat. And Livingstone Evangelistic Ministry said, "I do not believe leadership should be gender-based. That's creating a balanced response." And Uzelta went on and said she agreed. She agreed. And Anson went on and he said, "On the matter of man is the head of the house, but a true leader will allow the better person to take on what they are better capable of."
Anson, I really appreciate this comment, and I think there are various weak links within a marriage, especially because of that idea or that ideology or the notion that it is a man who's supposed to lead. I truly believe that my husband is in charge of our household. I allow him to make a lot of the decisions.
Now, this sounds pretty like we having a fight. You allow me.
No,
how does
no.
that sound? Let's see how we could fix that so the public could hate.
It is not that I allow it. I think it's just a natural thing, because there are things I am more comfortable with him doing, and there are things he is more comfortable with me doing, and
we have a balance.
And that is good. We need to understand our place. We need to understand our weaknesses and understand our strengths. And we also need to have a partner who has the same understanding as we do. In a marital relationship, for example, while you want to claim that you are the head of the household as a man, it does not mean that you cannot take or allow the decision of the woman or the proposition of the woman to take, charge in a particular situation. So, if, for example, my husband is a spender of money, he squanders money, and he does not recognize that this is going to be a deficiency in our relationship, that is going to cause us problems later on in life. But if he recognizes his weakness and he says, "Okay, I am going to allow you to manage the finances simply because I understand my weakness and I see that you are better at managing it, so I'm going to allow you. I don't see that as any kind of distortion or any kind of ridiculing of the man in the household. I recognize that as a strong man because he understands his weakness, he understands his partner's strength, and they have come to a compromise or come to an understanding and say, hey, this is the direction we will go as a family.
Wonderfully said. So as we look at it, we touch a little bit about the head of the household, and we realize that as you are able to acknowledge the place where you are not that strong, your deficiency basically, and you could pass on that position to whatever to your partner basically. So whether it's you, you're not good in finances, or it's me, and I'm able to see that. Now more so, let's bring it on the man, because it has been stated that men are the head of the household, and if I am able to recognize that I am not capable in that way, to say, listen, I think you should handle that, and I don't recognize that as leadership, I have not understood leadership at all.
Precisely.
Because that in and of itself is a leadership quality. It is part of the maturity or the innate trait, whether you are a naturally born leader, or it should be part of the schooling if you went to school to become a leader. So we want to get some things clear there, because the question that we are asking, should women lead? And again, I brought that into the circle of the church. And Anson said earlier he has seen a few female pastors. I have seen them myself. But here's an interesting thing that I recognize. So I went to this church some years ago in the US. And as I went, I shook a man's hand, and he was the pastor. Pastor this and whatever. He's playing the guitar. Right? I was happy to meet him. Then I met another pastor. His wife. Pastor her. And she's on fire. She's the worship leader. She's the preacher. And all the male pastor, who is a husband, is doing is playing the guitar. So as I analyzed this, I looked and I was like, I saw two things in it. That he recognized that he does not have the gifting or the quality to lead in that capacity and allow the wife to do it. Because clearly she could preach, she could teach, she is on fire in that way. She's preaching like a man and doing all of those things. But he doesn't preach. He cannot preach. He is not called to that. He's playing the guitar. But apparently he has the title because he's a man. Should that be the way that leadership go?
If indeed the man holds the title because he is a man, then that is a problem in itself. Because clearly we see here that the woman is the pastor. She has assumed the role of the husband. Now it is a totally different thing. It is a totally different thing if the woman is working with her man to lead the church. That is totally different from totally ignoring the fact that the man is not capable to lead in that way and disregarding the woman's ability and not giving her the position in the first place. I think this is wrong. Only if the man is given the position simply because he's a man.
Okay. Now I see Anson ask a question there, and I was laughing. What is preaching like a man? Well.
I was going to bring that up.
It's a good question, but not really a question for a big discussion. So let me just fix this quickly. Basically, what I am saying, we have seen what preaching is. A man comes, he deliberates the word, he go into context, he go into that deciphering the word. There are persons who cannot do that, period. There are persons who don't know what it is to do that. There are some persons that cannot even read, far less doing all of those things. So the point I'm making is that he is just there playing the guitar. Now, I also want to explain something else, because the pastoral role is something, it's beyond preaching, and it's beyond all that. But that is also an expectation of Christendom and teaching. It is an expectation that one should be a teacher if you decide to do this. This is what Paul said. We will not be wasting time giving food to tables to get men filled with the Holy Spirit to do that. But we will devote ourselves to the word and to the preaching of God's word. So that is an expectation of one who is leading. And so if one is not doing that, that should be something that you could look at, especially if his wife is doing that. And we're talking about, should a woman lead? She's doing it, he's not. So preaching like a man. Anson has already understood. So preaching like a man basically is deliberating and doing what preachers do. The man is not doing it, but the wife is doing it.
I still would not use preaching as a man as the correct term there. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it is the correct term, because it propagates the notion that man is the benchmark or the ideal. You understand what I'm saying?
While you have a point.
So that is it.
Wait. while you have a point, let me show you where I will set the standard on this. Because men have been the one who have done it first.
Yes, I understand that.
No, I am setting the standard. But the point is, because men have been the one who has done it first, and predominantly based on the culture, it has been set in that way. So using that person should not pen that and say, quoted Shem, and put that as preaching like a man, as this is the thing. But basically, we can say there is a benchmark because men were ultimately the ones who were seen as preachers. Yeah.
Granted. Okay, so I think Uzelda mentioned something. I'm missing out on a lot of the chat today, but she said that you taking up the responsibilities does not change the fact that Shem is the head. Does not change the fact that Shem is the head of the household, which is exactly what I was saying when it came to this scenario with the wife doing all the preaching and the husband is just on the guitar. Basically, my point was, if the wife was not given the role simply because she's a woman, then I have an issue with it. However, if they recognize the two as working together and the man has understood that, okay, I'm taking that role, understanding that I am working with somebody and the two of us, my wife has the capability and I'm allowing her to operate in that sphere in her capacity, then that is not a problem. I have an issue with persons choosing not to give the role to someone simply because of their gender. That is my my issue. So Uzelda, that is very correct.
So let's take some time. We really want to welcome Angela for being here, Pastor Claude Didier. Thanks for coming in. So we want to take some time and just still read what is in the chat, because I think it's very important. Livingstone says, being the head as the man don't mean that the man is a good leader. The woman could possess better leadership qualities, and in such a situation, the woman should lead. Now, if we just talk about leading in a sense, leading, you were leading that, you were leading this, you were leading that. It is not leading. When you speak about leading, or you look up the meaning of leading, it is neutral. It does not say a male leader, it does not say a female leader. It is basically neutral, like most of the things that we've been speaking about. And the other thing to that is, it does not say you must lead forever. You must lead in all things. You must lead in this, that. So the point that is being made there is very, very good. And if we accept it well, where you could be the leader, you are the leader in the finances. I am the leader in this. I am the leader in that. You are the leader in that. Ultimately, the decisions come down to us deciding.
Yes.
You know, and so when we look at those things, we are basically pointing out that women do have the qualities, because if we have established that you could be trained in a case where now, so we live in a society right now where we have a lot of women further in the education. Academically, women take that seriously, and I mean, I think we both have written papers about leadership. And one of the papers that I wrote about leadership, if I go into it, it spoke about that aspect. As we go into women go into leadership, that the church has an expectation of men to lead, to be their successor. Beautiful, that's wonderful, and it has been stated that men could lead better than women because of their ability to be rational thinkers, and the less emotions, and so on. We now recognize that we have some men with a lot of emotions, and so those things are questionable based on studies. However, let's talk about the basic thing. So we think that men generally are very rational persons. So you speak with a man that is a man, and then you may have a good reasoning with him, and he could take out the emotion and say, okay, this is that, I think that. So those are some of the qualities that would make man ideal, and those are some of the things that are established as it pertains to the church. But one of the things, and remember, I'm talking about a paper that we wrote, and well, I wrote regarding to that, and we are saying most of the times we don't see the grooming for a man to be a successor. And I am saying that on the backdrop of how women send themselves to school to be more academic. Men help them go to school to be more academic, to lead the women that they send to school while they didn't send themselves to school. Where are we going with that kind of thing? How can we continue with men leading when we are paying for them to go to school while not going to school? We who are in charge and capable of training young persons, we are not doing it. We expect them to learn through what means, what method. How do we get to maintaining what is basically, in a sense, getting a little lower?
I think within the church there is such a great emphasis on the spiritual, and a lot of the time what we seem as spiritual is more religious than anything, and does not really constitute to anything of substance. We spoke about spirituality some time back, but the great focus is spirituality. And so whether or not the man has educated himself in that capacity to lead, to learn what they need to learn, because some of them are really not very good leaders. They just are very religious, and they know how to go through the rituals and go through all of the procedures, and for persons to see them as, a spiritual leader. This is the great focus of the church. And so it might not, I'm generalizing here, so that does not mean that this is the case for every church across the globe. I'm just saying that this is sometimes the case. And so we since that is the focus, we do not have men who are in a position to train other men. You cannot expect someone who does not have something in themselves to train somebody to become their successor and to do it well. And I think this is a great downfall of the church. While I believe in spirituality, while I believe that we need to have a measure of spirituality for leadership, I also believe that there is need for a balance. I believe that there are things that can be taught, and it doesn't have to be taught or learned in a very formal sense. So you don't have to necessarily go to university and learn leadership. You understand? But there can be some sort of training that needs to take place to enable that man to lead and lead effectively. Because we have men leading, and that does not mean that they are doing a very good job leading. However, they are leading, they are in the position, and so persons have to go with the flow. You understand? So that is my position where it comes to leadership within the church. There is too much of a great focus on spirituality and not so much where there is a need for a balance.
Okay, so wonderful. So we are talking today on Music Mind about leadership. First, we began with what is leadership, who should lead, and we propose 3 types of leadership: that of the authoritarian. We also talk about the authoritarian is one who dictates and say the method in which whatever it is that they are leading should go. We also made mention of the Democrat, which is the one who involves the subordinates or even those that they are working alongside with to be a part of the leadership process. We have also mentioned about the passive leader, this one who delegates, sits back, give persons tasks to do, and enjoy the greatness that comes with it. But we also went on further to say that uniting them, basically a merger of them, the integration of the 3 at the right time for whatever situation or circumstance that it is, will be an ideal model for leadership. And so this is what we are saying. Using them in the correct way, for the correct time, and for the correct person will be ideal. We went on a little further to talk about, are leaders born? Is it natural, is it innate, or is it bred? So can you go to school to become a leader? Because we have also said that you could be born with traits. You could also go to school and learn it. Therefore, it means that women could get the skill. Women could even be born naturally with it. So we are not saying that men should, we are not coming down on men because they have been there for a long time and say they are leading bad. We are not doing that. What we are saying is, we are asking the question, are women being utilized enough? Are women being utilized within capacities? And this goes a little beyond women, because we also want to talk about the skills within a household, the skills within a company, the skills within the church, the skills within the workforce. If you have someone who is a tech person, they should be on the projector working and doing some good things, to have your projector and the lines going underneath, and the announcement being properly placed at the right time. You cannot have the drummer doing that. No, that's out of line. So we are talking about utilizing the gift. And this is the same thing Paul said to Timothy. I want to stir up the gift that is in you, that was in your grandmother Eunice, and all of that thing. So we cannot use a square peg in a round hole.
And I mean, a good leader, an effective leader, would be able to recognize and learn their subordinates so well to know that you are strong in this, or you have the potential, and let me help you get to that point to enable them to thrive and to operate within that particular capacity.
Exactly. So to continue on, basically I am saying it is not about male and female and persons being marginalized because of gender. It should not be in that way that we should say who should do this and who should do that. It has to be qualifications. And when I speak about qualifications, whether in the church it has to be done with your lifestyle, the anointing, the abilities, and all of that comes into play. You put a teacher to teach Sunday school. You don't put a musician to teach Sunday school. No, it does not work that way.
And that is so important, because within the church there are so many people of various capacities, people who operate or in capacities within society. And the funny thing is, I don't think it's so funny anyways, I think it is very sad, is that we do not use what we have within the church to better the church. So we have doctors. The doctor should be able to operate as a doctor within the church. If there is something to do with, and the church is not limited to only spiritual things. And maybe it is, but spiritual things make intertwine with everything physical. So for you to be able to come to church, you need to be in good health. So a doctor has to have a place in the church. Someone who is a psychologist should have a place in the church. The nurse should have a place in the church. We need to be able to use persons in their capacity and not think, okay, if you are not a theologian, you don't have a degree in theology, you're not going to be operating within the church as an elder or within the church as a leader or whatever the case may be. We have to use what we have. Musicians, you cannot put a musician to preach if the... Now, that doesn't mean a musician cannot have the gift of preaching, but if that is the gift that this person has, use the person within that capacity.
Yeah. And I'm just reading, because we have for some examples right there, and Livingstone Evangelistic Ministry said, Shakina, you are so right. I am a pastor. Not me, but Livingstone. I am a pastor. I've worked with other pastors that don't have a clue as it relates to leadership. This is why I always admonish leaders, especially pastors, to get the proper training. And I love the fact that this is coming from one who is a pastor. So as we speak about leadership, we speak about who should lead, should women lead. We recognize that we are saying we should have the balance. Now, the balance is very important. Now, I want to go and touch a little bit about, you may say something, but I'm just trying to find out something there, because I want to say that we have women who have contributed significantly in the Bible to lead. Now, some, like we said earlier, are negative, some are positive. Whether negative or positive, we recognize something happened. They moved an individual, or they moved whoever was at the back of them to do what it was that they wanted them to do, whether it was negative or positive. Some persons will say women are influencers and not leaders. I don't know about all of that, but let us see. You feel free to say what you may as I get this piece of literature.
I don't know if we mentioned this one, but Catherine Alexander said, no two persons have the same exact anointing. Women can lead in a respectable way, so long her ego don't overpower her leadership authorities, and she keeps submitting to her husband. It's okay. And I wanted to touch a little bit about on submission when it comes to leadership within the household, leadership within a marital relationship. I agree with you, Catherine. I agree that women can lead, and no two persons have the same level of anointing when it comes to leading, or the same level of capacity when it comes to leading. So what someone might do very well in their leadership position, another person might be weaker at, and may have another thing that they do better. But when it comes to submitting, we kind of touched on that. When it comes to submitting, we tend to have that notion that as a woman, you need to submit to your husband, and whatever your husband says goes. And that is very, very poor leadership, and I don't think that has anything to do with submission. If a man decides that he wants his wife to submit to him, and of course it's a biblical thing, the Bible admonishes us to submit as wives to our husbands. Fair enough. But the husband, if the husband is doing something or suggesting something that is totally contrary to what is morally right, would you say simply because he's the head of the house, he's the leader in the household, I am going to submit to his authority and go on and do whatever it is that he has to do? We must understand that everything is within a parameter. You cannot claim to be a leader and desire for somebody to do something that you would not want for your own self. Again, the leader, any good leader, ensures that their subordinate or the person whom they lead, person or persons whom they lead, gets to the point that they want them to get. And it is to a good point. Okay? Anson is saying, but Bible, husband to love, then submitting is easy. Okay, so the Bible requires the husband to love. And if indeed there is love, then submission is easy. I think I'm a very submissive person. I think I'm a very submissive person. However, I am a very, very strong-willed individual. So I am not very easily swayed. And so if, for example, there was something that I am not comfortable with, I will very easily and very boldly make my point. Respectfully, of course, because I don't believe in disrespect. However, we have to come to an understanding. We need to understand that, okay, this is what I mean. Because sometimes we misinterpret certain things. Sometimes we take it out of context. Sometimes we just don't understand what it is that the other party wants us to get at. And it makes it difficult for us to agree with it or go along with it. So what I tend to do is ask question, discuss. I like to talk about whatever issues it is that we may have. And so I talk and I discuss. And we come to an understanding. I say, okay, this is what you mean. I understand this, and okay, we go with that. But otherwise, if I was not this type of person and I would just go ahead with things, it would put me in a position where whether or not his intention was right, if I myself do not have the proper understanding of what it is that we have to do, there will be a tension nonetheless, whether or not I submit or I say, okay, we will go with it. So we have to come to an understanding. And again, every relationship is different. And so we don't expect for you to go about things the way that we do go about things. But do not, as a husband, try not to dictate as if you own your wife in a sense that she's so small she cannot ask you a question, or she's so beneath you that whatever you say, whether it is good or bad, she has to submit to it and go on with it. I don't think this is a good place to be. So this is a charge to husbands and to wives.
Okay, so we are here and we're talking about leadership in the household, leadership in the church, leadership in society. And Pastor Didier said, leadership is a function more than a title, utilizing the gifts to get the job done for the benefit of the team, not to gain points individually.
Very good, very good.
And I agree with that. I
Yes.
agree with that. We cannot take no glory
Yes, I
from
agree.
what will be the outcome of what we do, especially when we work as a team. So yes, Catherine also said, as it relates to something that we're speaking about, this is why God asked us to use wisdom. So definitely, even with that statement, it is definitely true that we need to exhibit wisdom as we lead, as we function, as couples, as individuals, as leaders of whatever entity, and more so the church. We want to be able to be a strong force, and we want to be able to use all our strengths in the right places, and so that even our weaknesses could turn into strengths because our strengths are in the right places. Now, we have record of men leading. Definitely, our Bible talks about men leading, and then we see Solomon, how his decision making was sharp when it came to these two ladies who came with the child. So we have seen in the Bible how men have led, and it's very unfortunate as we do some studies about women in the Bible. A lot of the examples that they propose are not necessarily positive when it comes to women and what they have contributed as leaders. And let's look at the first example. I will not dwell on it because again we want to stir things in the right direction. But and this is for me to show how women are capable of leading. The first example would be Eve. That's in the Bible. The Eve was able to lead Adam into something that he was not supposed to have done. Now, like I said, we will not dwell on that, but we will show the power that women have. Even in this society, in this time that we live in, we recognize how you keep hearing statements, I didn't expect that from this guy. He was so this, he was so that. That girl, that, you know, there's a lot of things that we are disappointed by. The power of women. Now, we will call it sin, but it is influence, or it is used. Again, remember we say we're using the right things in the right place. We're using the right qualities for the right job. So whether the enemy choose to use the right woman, he'll not use the wrong woman to throw you down. He will use the right woman. So the power. So if we could get that, if we recognize that within women there is that ability to do something, but use it for the positive. Now that is one example.
That example is quite similar to Samson.
Yeah, oh yes. I didn't want to go into that because basically the same thing, because it also you get with David and Bathsheba and all that. However, as after Uriah died and they got married, you realize that he would have had Solomon with her, and the wisest man, and he was the first decision that I spoke about. But Ruth was a virtuous young widow, and you saw how she dealt with her mother-in-law, and Naomi returned with her, and she was one of those persons that did something positive when it comes to women and leadership. We also had a great one like Rahab, was a cheater, was a prostitute, but helped hit the men and to help destroy and capture the land. But we want to say, basically what we are saying is that because we speak about leadership, and leadership, as we mention leadership, we recognize that it is not only natural, but you could be groomed and trained to be a leader. Women are not shortchanged in that department. They are capable, just as men, and I am also admonishing men to groom yourself. Train yourself if you always want to be in that place of leadership where and women love to know that they could talk to a man that could lead them, Whilst there is that big decision of you heard a lot of women, I think I wanted to talk about that. It was in my mind. A lot of women argue and talk about yes, I am, you said something about that a little earlier. Yes, I am the father. I am independent, I have this, I have that. And what is the fear? So there is a kind of fear. For men, some men have the fear. Why shouldn't women lead? Man, if women start to lead, they will lead with that kind of mentality. Men are this, that, so we in charge now. And we see those kinds of things happening where women take on the position and they lead. And they start to lead with an iron fist. They don't even realize that they have the power, that they're starting to overlead. The punishment hard and they doing all of those things. When you flip that, you get the same thing happening on the perspective of men. They're afraid because of that. And then some women say, men hurt me, so I can't have no man leading me. I raise my child alone. And that is because of the lack of balance. One man hurt you, all men are bad. One woman did that thing as a bad leader, all women are bad. And no, we cannot see things like that. We need to create the avenue. And like I was saying, men, groom yourself, train yourself, go to school, enlighten yourself, be around good counsel. So you could be nurtured to lead, to co-lead. And co-leading is wonderful. That's the best thing, co-lead.
I think just before I continue, something just popped in my mind. I think we mentioned that earlier about women being more emotional than men. And that is such a flawed perspective of men and women, which makes our idea or the notion that men are more rational than women, and so they can take better decisions.
Women think on the right side of the brain or something. That theory, right?
That theory about the one side of the brain, we cannot our brain operates in unison. We cannot use only one side of the brain and not the other side of the brain. That is so ridiculous. But the point is, some men are poor leaders because they are so emotional. And you do not even hear people talk about those things. They are so emotional, the things that they do. They have such a desire for leadership. They thrive so much on leadership. They want that attention so much that if they don't get it, it becomes an issue. And if somebody questions what they're doing, they don't see it as an opportunity for growth. They see it as an attack. So we have to be so careful in stating that men are more rational, because I have come across several men who are so emotional. I'm wondering, I mean, based on what society suggests women to be, they probably are women. You understand? But I understand that both men and women are equally emotional. It is the way in which that it is brought out and the way in which that it is managed that is different. But we are equally emotional beings. Otherwise, you would not be a human being.
Beautiful, wonderful, great. So today we have been speaking about leadership. Leadership. So we asked the question, what is leadership? And we recognize that leadership is a journey to an expected end. That end does not necessarily mean that it is good for you. It might be bad for you, but good for somebody else. So we accepted that it is a neutral place. We proposed that three leadership styles: authoritarian, the one who dictates, and the second one, the one who has one co-lead with them, participate in the leading, and the one who dictates and receives the glory. So we have accepted that also that women are capable of leading. They have the qualities. Why? Because you could be taught how to lead. You could be trained as to how to lead. And we spoke about leadership in the home, leadership in schools. We didn't touch on leadership in schools, but we recognize leadership is leadership and it does not matter. But really and truly, what we narrow in to was leadership within the church, and we have concluded, or we are suggesting, that leadership should not be confined to just men, but it should be open to individuals. We leave gender alone, but individuals with the qualities to work within their capacities. And as we say that, we are also saying that we want to advocate that persons, and we are saying individuals, and not male or not female, but individuals of the church should go study, groom themselves, partner yourself with the elders. Older men teach the younger men, the older women likewise teach them how to love their husbands. And let's not get puffed up in thinking that we are the head of the home, for the women to say, I am the neck. We don't want those kind of things. Basically, we want to be able to have leadership qualities so much so that we recognize where we are weak and our wives are strong, and then we could say, babes, man, this is where I need your support. We don't come and try and play strong there and do more destruction. So my statement is, I would prefer give a capable woman to lead us than a man that will lead us into destruction because he's a man. This is not a philosophy that we should live by, but definitely we are saying that everyone should be groomed, so that if you want to maintain the ideology or the philosophy that men should live, groom yourself, so that women would even understand and say, yeah, but there's not a problem with that. That's okay, that's fine. So yes, greetings, peaceful sistren. Nice having you. So yes, we are mellowing down. We are indeed mellowing down. This has really been a great day. I really love this topic, leadership. Leadership in the church, leadership in the home. I think this could be used in any facet of life. Where basically we need to work on ourselves. This is a statement, this is really a lesson for us. And I'm telling you, we have a lot of information there. I think we have done courses about that, an entire course on leadership. So leadership is broad, and everyone seems to propose something that you could add there. But really and truly, if we merge the three, it could be used. If it could be very effective once used correctly. So I don't know if you have any last words that you want to say as it relates to leadership, and if anyone in the chat has something, we will read it. So speak to us and let us know.
All right. So of course we've been discussing leadership. Like my husband has said, there's so much we can discuss on the topic, but we wanted to, of course, talk it more from a spiritual sense, and start off with it being, something social that everybody can relate to, and narrow it down to the more spiritual aspect of it. My encouragement maybe to pastor, I know at least we have at least two pastors here with us, but my encouragement would be to encourage your congregation, or encourage your group to further themselves. Believe it or not, we are all leaders. And we lead at least one person. I say this, and as I say this, I remember there was one particular lady who met me and within the community, and she told me that her daughter really, really looks up to me, and that is a daughter I had never met. If you know me well, I don't venture out too much unless I necessarily need to. So it is not unusual that I do not even know somebody who lives somewhere down the road. But this was a child, so it was not someone within my age group. whom I have gone to school together with or anything like that. And she was just telling me just the way that I keep myself and the way that the strides that I'm making, because believe it or not, people are looking, and they, for some reason, they knew what was happening with me, and I did not even know that individual. And I'm saying this to say that sometimes, while we think, okay, I don't have anything to do, no, I'm not leading anybody, I don't have any group of people following me or anything like that, you are a leader in your own right. First off, if you have a family, you are a leader within your family in whatever capacity. If you have a child, you are a leader.
Many capacities.
Exactly. You are a leader. Believe it or not, you are a leader. But outside of that, people within the community will be looking at you. And some people that you never even expected to be looking at you are actually looking at you. And some people are emulating what you are doing. And whether or not you know it, whether or not it is a direct leadership or indirect sort of leadership, you are leading. So my encouragement for you is to be cognizant of everything that you say or do, publicly or in private. Yeah. Because again, in private, what you do in private speaks a lot to your integrity.
And private stuff can easily be turned to public stuff.
Right.
It depends on what, you know. Yeah.
Yes, so be very careful. You are in a position of leadership, whether you believe it or not. But when you are placed in leadership, which is a different kind of leadership, when you are placed in leadership, for example, a group of people nominate you to be leader, you have accepted, you are the leader who is elected, you have that special responsibility to do things in a manner that is right. Mm-hmm. Not only for yourself, but for those persons that you are leading. Now, some people that you are leading are very strong-headed, and they may not be influenced by your leadership style. But generally, persons that you lead will learn from you. And if you are a poor leader, imagine you are teaching indirectly, but you are teaching those very poor negative traits, and that is not what you want to continue to go down generation to generation. So be careful. Take this opportunity to learn. Take this opportunity. You don't have to learn formally. If you do not know something, find out. Too many times we do not know and we just leave it at that. Do not settle for that. If you do not know, that is not a problem. We are not self-sufficient in that way. We do not know all things. But we have that responsibility to go take the initiative and go on and further ourselves. Whether it is by reading a book was suggested in the chat, yeah. Whether it is by asking someone you think is more capable, or whatever the case might be, finding a suitable person for accountability and for guidance and for mentorship, do that. It does not mean that you are a poor leader. It means that as a leader, you recognize your strength, you recognize your weakness, and you are going to do something to strengthen your strengths and to make your weaknesses into strengths.
Yes. So yes, we are adding to that, being a leader really is a tall order. Mm-hmm. And as my wife was saying, one may suffer burnout because of the level of expectations that many would have on you. So you have, especially for pastor, you have your family life, you have and within your family life have those sub lives, you know, and then you have the church life, you have the society, the community, and individual problems. And as we think about that, I'm not saying to persons be cognizant of that, because sometimes you're in the position where you just need help, you're not thinking about that. But I am letting the persons that are in those positions recognize that as you rightfully said, be sure to find someone that you could be accountable to when you reach those points of burnout or frustration. Because I am one that don't believe that a leader should tell, we like to speak about transparency, and we can be transparent, but we should not be transparent to anyone. When you are a leader, there are things that you can be transparent about, but there are certain things you need someone who is mature, who you could trust to be accountable to and share, so that you could be restored in the time when you are at your lowest point. So we know and we recognize that persons will be at that point even when you are leaders. You could be the best leader, and you may and might find yourself, I'm just hoping that you won't, but you may find yourself at that point of you being in need for leadership yourself. So again, we really give thanks, and like Pastor Didier said, it's not boss man and boss lady, but basically it's
a
togetherness, leadership working together.
I think before we end, you mentioned burnout, and I just want to touch on that just quickly. If we will go back to the point where we made, where we spoke about the participative leadership style, and you find generally people who tend to be burnt out are those who take on the burden of the leadership role and not incorporate or not recognize the need for other individuals to be a part of it. And again, someone may say, "Oh, I'm leading those people, but those people, they're not involving," but again, we know a good leader is able to empower those. So even those people who do not want to be a part of it, who seem like they do not want to be a part of it, as a leader, if those people exist within your sphere, it means that there is something that you are not doing to empower that particular individual to want to feel the passion to do something to get to that place. So you as a leader, you need to engage your people, engage your group towards the goal that you want the group to get to. So it is important to avoid burnout altogether. First off, as a leader, you need to have your accountability partner that is outside of your group, and you also need to engage your people to the fullest extent. Not everyone has the same capacity, not everyone has the same ability, but recognizing that this person has the ability to do this, and empowering the others who may not be so passionate to get on board is very, very important for the group to get to the point that they want to get to.
Wonderfully said. So today we just want to give thanks to Livingstone for passing by, Soraya. We thank you, Uzelta, Emily, Uzel. We thank you for coming, Anson Nati for dropping by, Anson for coming by, Nati Conqueror, Tabby, nice having you, SF Rose for dropping by. So Pastor Claude, DJ, Jude, we thank you for coming by. Catherine, we really appreciate you coming by. Vivita, again, we are happy that you could drop by just to be a part of what is happening. Angela, Adriana, Clint, we thank you. Anita, yes, so we are happy. And even persons who did not speak, Peaceful Sistren, we thank you for coming by. Sharon, we are happy. D. Meluce, Delta Meluce, thank you for coming by.
Tyler is here.
Oh, Twyla, thank you for coming by. So we are happy that we could be able to interact and reach out and be a blessing to individuals. So again, grace and peace and happiness, we happy that we could serve you in that way. Like we know that being a leader is actually servant. And then we talk about the thing, servant leadership. So basically it's to serve. And so we give thanks to everyone who would have visited us today on this episode of Music Mind, where we spoke about leadership. Remember, authoritarian leadership. We also talk about the passive leadership and the democratic leadership. yes, merge them together, use them appropriately at the right time. And we are happy that you could have been here and be a part of that. Also remember to subscribe and like this video, subscribe basically and click the little notification bell. And that is just to alert you as to when we're going on. If you have the time, you could always check us out. We are here every Sunday at 4 o'clock. It's now 3 o'clock in the US, so we
Yes.
understand. So Jude, we thank you for being here as well.
Well, guys, it was such a pleasure engaging the discussion. Always a pleasure. By now, I like to talk good stuff though. I like to engage discussion, meaningful discussion, and it is always good to have all of you with us. SF Rose said she was going, but she's still here listening. So SF Rose, thank you. D Meluce and everybody else. Emily, it's such a pleasure having you with us. Twyla, Pastor DJ, everybody who has been there. Clint, Anson. Yes, my husband has mentioned most of the names. But thank you so much. It is a pleasure to have you with us. It's always nice when you are able to say what you say, and for us to engage is for us to say yes, for us to say no, for us to say of course we agree, and for us to look at all of the varying perspectives on a matter. Like we have been saying and will continue to say, we do not propose to know it all. We know that this is simply a platform for discussion and to engage topics that would not ordinarily be engaged within the church sphere. So this is a safe haven for you to share your thoughts freely, without discrimination, without opposition, and to engage the topic. And hopefully that will stir up further discussion among yourselves, among your families, among your friends, among even the church. So thank you again for joining us on another episode of Music Mind, and we will see you again Sunday, God's willing, next week at 4 p.m. That is Eastern Caribbean time, or 3 p.m.
if you're in the US.
If you are in the US. I think the UK is 5 hours behind or ahead of us. So yes, so you will project it properly. So it is such wonderful pleasure to have you with us. We were discussing leadership, and be a good leader. Okay, be a good leader. And let me encourage you to bring someone with you the next time that you come in. All right.
Oh, blessings to Orlando. Landlord, blessings to you.
All right.
I place it all in your hand, 'cause you are worthy. And only you can lead the way, lead the right way. I see you guiding my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. Only you can lead the way, lead me the right way. See you guiding my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. See, when the times are tough and I feel like give it up, yeah. When I feel unhappy in the place I am at the moment. See, yes, I wanna run away, don't wanna hear what no one says. But in my quiet place you reach me, and in my brokenness you teach me that only you can lead the way, lead the right way. I see you guiding my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. Only you can lead the way, lead me the right I see you guiding my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. Only you can lead the way. Yeah. See you guiding my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. Only you can lead the way. Yeah. I see you. You guided my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. You can lead the way. See you guided my steps all day, and I'm here on the pathway. You can lead the and righteousness always, yes, yeah, 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 yeah. And righteousness always, yeah, oh yeah. See, oh, I give thanks for the breath of life. Oh, I give thanks for the little that I have, yeah. Giving thanks for the food on my table. So glad I am able. See, oh, as I wake, I look up and I give thanks for life. Praises to the Most High as I forward. I see the sunlight. More praises for life. Yeah, I look around, I see the birds are happy. Sometimes I truly wanna be wealthy, but then I sit down and ask myself why, and will I really use it wisely? You know, I still think about the little child, still think about the vagrants out there. Whoa, 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 who's still giving thanks for life? 'Cause it's not easy, nothing in life is easy. No, I tell you it's not easy, yeah. Not easy. You must believe it. Whoa, yeah, yeah. So you must believe it. Yeah, 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 yeah. Things that get a little hard, we on our own. See, but we give thanks through it all. Still we are doing alright, doing no eternal life. More times we look to God to hold on strong. More times we seek His face to understand, and more times we call for more wisdom. But these are the times we have more questions. But your mother and father, them are alright. Your brothers and sisters, them stay upright. We see enough love from the people. You better believe it. I know your wife and children, them are hold it tight. But sometimes you know it's not nice. But when the fun time come, we all laugh it out. And when